if I told you that this is better than these? Don't believe me? Let's find out. Hey, welcome closeted nerd fans. My name is Greg, and on my channel I defend all of the nerdy movies and TV shows that you like that the internet says you shouldn't, because on this channel, your fandom matters. I know that the Phantom Menace has its haters, but this movie actually does have some defensible parts that I want to get into right now. First, I want to talk about some of the designs of the characters. When we first see the Jedi, that is exactly what we imagine them being. Sage peacekeepers, the wizards of space that like to, swing their swords around and keep the peace. Also, I think Obi-Wan Kenobi was perfectly played by Ewan McGregor. I mean, he did such a great job. And Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson, was also a great casting choice. I mean, these two are actually really good actors that sometimes take a script that I don't think is written really well and actually elevate it and make it better. After they get there, they then also attacked by the Trade Confederacy. What I like about the scene is it actually shows us what the Force can do, such as running faster. And it actually makes sense, because if they can push things around, maybe they can also push themselves a little bit faster than usual. And it also makes sense that the Trade Confederacy would actually betray the Jedi. They already know they're not supposed to do this. Oh, and by the way, the racism with the Trade Confederacy, that's bad. I'm not going to defend that at all. Just bad. Just a bad decision by everybody involved. And they're already under the thumb of the Sith. But besides that, the beats of the story do make a lot of sense when you go through it. I mean, after all, they escape down to Naboo. They decide that they need to help rescue the Queen of Naboo, which is something that seems natural. And then we get to Jar Jar Binks, the most controversial person in this entire prequel series. I didn't really like him as an adult, but when I was watching this movie in theaters like 3 different times, I thought he was hilarious. Pee and poop jokes aren't necessarily the highest order of humor, but it is still funny to kids. And if you think about it, Star Wars has always been about and for children. And look, he is an outsider. He's a bumbling idiot. That's why he was sent away. But he's also useful as a guide, and I actually like that he was sent away because he was incompetent rather than doing something illegal. Because if it was something illegal and truly terrible, then the Jedi wouldn't have allied themselves with him anyway. And Jar Jar also brings some more levity and humor to this entire movie as well. I mean, sure, it's a lot of comedic Three Stooges type of humor, but the Three Stooges were popular. And I'm also going to defend seeing Anakin as a kid. I mean, maybe he's a little whiny, but it's not like we haven't seen whiny heroes in the Star Wars universe before.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
But again, this is a movie that's more targeted towards children, so having a young kid be the eventual fallen hero does make sense. I also want to say that even though the bet that Qui-Gon made is a little complicated, the fact of the matter is that he needed to do this because it was the kid that became important. And then there were midichlorians. Look, this is more of a sci-fi than a fantasy movie, so it breaks away from traditional Star Wars. I would also imagine that the world that they're in would try and come up with a way on how to measure, Force-sensitive people. You really think scientists would have sat around looking at the Force being like, well, we have no idea who's Force-sensitive or who's not. It's just all totally random. No, they would try and come up with a process and a way to measure it so that the Jedi can actually find people to train. So while the midichlorians might drive some people nuts, it does make sense from a story perspective in the universe. Also, pod racing is badass. That scene was just a lot of fun. Darth Maul, completely badass. And the fight scene is amazing. And by the way, I also want to say that John Williams came up with some pretty classic Star Wars scores for this entire movie. Because look, Star Wars was a fantasy movie that really spoke to younger people. And this movie was targeted to even a younger demographic. It still transported a new generation to the world of Star Wars. Was it the exact same as the original? No, but did it accomplish its mission in allowing it to be a gateway into the universe? Yeah, and that's a good thing. As I was writing this, I came to a specific conclusion. This movie is all about figuring out who you are and being proud of that. Anakin is still trying to figure out who he is. he starts off as a slave boy and then he becomes free and now he's under the Jedi. He's figuring out who he is. He's trying to figure out his identity. Obi-Wan is trying to figure out and go from an identity of being a Padawan to being a full-fledged Jedi Knight. And Padme is still trying to discover her identity as a leader. And as they're trying to figure out their own identities, they find each other and they support each other in figuring that piece out for them. And it makes sense that it would speak to that generation. Not just opening them up to the world of Star Wars, but opening them up to characters and themes that they can relate to. And quite honestly, thinking about the movie like this changes my perspective on this. And even though this movie never really was a success for me as an adult, I can see why people still treasure it and cherish it, because there are some good defensible moments, even if it didn't always work for me. But what do you think? What's your favorite part about The Phantom Menace? Be sure to leave a comment down below, and I hope to see you in my next video.